Hi, listeners. I am so excited for you to join me for this podcast episode. I'm going to introduce my guest here in a second, but what I will share is that when I logged on to say hi, there was such an amazing surprise waiting for me on the other end, and I was just filled with joy and delight and an urge to connect, which is such an important piece, because what we're talking about today are ways to engage the child and tips and techniques for that initial session. So I have with me today the one and only Liana Lowenstein. For those of you that are not familiar with Liana's work, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a registered clinical social worker, a certified play therapist supervisor, a certified trauma-focused CBT therapist. She's been working with children and families in the Toronto area since 1988. She has 12 books. Yes, 12 books, everyone. And I am going to say more about this as we go into our conversation, but I actually have with me in my hands her latest book, which we are going to be talking about, and I'm so excited to share it with you. She is a dynamic speaker who has provided trainings throughout North America and abroad, including China, South Africa, Israel, England, Turkey, New Zealand, Australia, and I know, Liana, there are so many more countries that are not listed on this. She is the winner of the Monica Herbert Award for Outstanding Contribution to Play Therapy in Canada. Liana is a mover and a shaker in this field. And Liana, thank you so much for joining. If you want to come on and say hello.
Hello. So for people who are listening and can't actually see the screen, I am donning my green wig.
Yes.
And this green wig was kind of born. The idea was born when COVID first hit. And of course, like all therapists around the world, we were forced to transition from in-person sessions to online sessions. And I was thinking to myself, what can I do to sort of create that, immediate playful connection with my younger clients? Mm-hmm. When they come to see me in my office, they're, immediately captivated by my play therapy room, the puppets and the art area and the dollhouse and the Mr. Potato Head and all that stuff. And so I was really looking for a way to be playful, connect, lower their anxiety level about coming to that first session. And the green wig has been a huge hit, and not just in terms of building that initial rapport with the child, but with the parents too, which is so important. So I always get a giggle from the child, but I also get giggles from the parents. Mm-hmm. So it's when we're engaging the child, we also have to engage the parents, of course.
Well, I had that reaction when I logged on here, and I went, ah! Yeah. It was like so delightful. And for those of you that cannot see this wig, let me just tell you, this isn't just a green wig. This is a very fluorescent green wig, and it's full of curls. So it's very vibrant. It's very, very fun. So thank you so much for just demonstrating this very thing that we're going to be talking about. And truly, I'm so grateful that you are here to have this conversation with me.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm so pleased. Your podcast is such an important contribution to the field out there. I know how many people all over the world listen or view it, and it's just an invaluable learning opportunity.
Well, thanks, Liana. Well, let's jump into you have such a wealth of knowledge. So help us wrap our mind around, how do we engage children in this first session?
So, of course, many kids in that initial session feel really anxious about coming to a therapist, and they may be really reluctant to start talking about their thoughts and their feelings. And so, I think our job as, a play therapist is to make that immediate connection, build rapport, lower their anxiety level. And so, I think that there are, of course, some techniques, and I can share some later on, but what I really want to begin by saying is that there's a wonderful article by David Crenshaw and Suan Kaninaziska both of whom I know you've had on your podcast. And I can't remember the exact title, but it talks about the difference between being and doing. So the being, of course, is all about therapeutic presence. It's how we are with the child. It's, it's conveying warmth and acceptance and respect, and it's the smile on our face. If I were to go into the waiting room to meet a child for the first time, and say hello, and not have a smile on my face, well, that wouldn't be conveying that warmth. So even though I have this really cool green wig on, well, it wouldn't really be effective if I wasn't conveying that warmth and using those skills in terms of myself. So there's the being, and then there's the doing. What do we actually do? And that sort of talks about some techniques, which again we'll talk a little bit more about. So I really want to emphasize that both are important. The techniques, the doing, aren't going to be effective without the being, the therapeutic presence, and how we use ourselves. So I think that's the first thing I wanted to emphasize. And then, so once I've sort of made that initial connection with the child, let's say in the waiting room, whether it's, coming out in a green wig or coming on screen for an online session with the green wig, or using, a puppet, I might have like my little turtle puppet that I'm holding up right now, which I might go out and I love the turtle puppet, especially because for the little shy kids, you can go into the shell, and so using puppets. So those are a couple of strategies to just kind of, again, make that connection, be playful, and engage the child. And then once in my play therapy office, there's a couple of other things that I sort of do immediately. I do have a fidget basket in my office because, so many kids are, highly anxious, maybe dysregulated. And so having that outlet, and I don't just have like one or two, I have like a basket so kids can choose one. And I have ones that are geared more to little kids, some that are geared to the teen clients. And they get to choose one for the session, and then the basket gets put away so that, they're not distracted by, every 2 seconds wanting to change their fidget item. I also have a welcome letter that I use, and I vary it, I adapt it to depending on the child. But in that welcome letter, I kind of explain, who I am and what my job is. And I also define the main presenting issue. So let's say the child is coming to see me because of, divorce. Then I would, say, you're coming to see me to talk about mom and dad's divorce, and then I'll define divorce, and then the letter will go on. And I like to include that and define the presenting issues. The child knows, I know what the main issue is. I'm the one saying it, so the child doesn't have to sit there thinking, what do they know? And should I have to say it? Do I have to say it? What are we talking about today? So I'm just kind of opening up the dialogue and setting that tone for openness.
Can I ask you a question about this? Because I'm envisioning this, and it's really cool. Is this something that you read to the child?
Yeah. So I read it to the child. And it goes on the first page of their scrapbook. So all my clients who come to see me get their own scrapbook. And we're not talking about their $50 scrapbooks. We're talking about those little cardboard, 3-ring, little binder things. Yeah. And then either I take a picture of the child for the cover of their scrapbook, or I give the child a choice. They could take a selfie. Which again is just another way to help clients feel in control, have some choice, and then I print the picture, and that goes on the cover of their scrapbook, so that their scrapbook really feels like, oh, this is mine and this is me. And then I do some kind of rapport building technique, and I have different ones, and I'll choose one that I think would appeal to the child.
Can you give us a couple little examples, just as we're following along with you as you're mapping this out for us? Just based on maybe even like children, like a child that's like super anxious, or a child that's, a bit more shut down, or I don't know, just different ideas.
Yeah. One for a younger child is simple. It's a paper bag puppet. So we each create our own paper bag puppet, and I have a whole bunch of different art supplies. Googly eyes and colored felt and colored string. So we each make our own paper bag puppet, and while we're making the puppets, we're chit chatting. So that in and of itself, gives the client a task to focus on. And we're chit-chatting, so that's part of the whole rapport building process. And then we use our puppets to talk to each other. And so my puppet is kind of interviewing the child's puppet. And I say to the child, so you can use your puppet to talk for you, and I'll use my puppet to talk for me. And then I'm asking the child getting to know you questions. And I have, different types of questions. I call them phase 1 and phase 2 questions. So phase 1 questions are easy peasy, no brainer, no threat level questions like, what's your name? How old are you? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? What's one of your favorite toys? As I see the child engaging, and I'm really watching and being very attuned to the child to watch for, are they talking to me? Are they engaging? Do they seem relaxed? Then I might move to what I call phase 2 questions, which I might say, what's something that makes you feel happy? What's something that makes you feel sad? What's something that makes you feel scared? So it's both a rapport building intervention, but it's also, I'm beginning my assessment process, which is something we also want to do, in that initial session. So that's one example. Another example is what I call the I don't know, I don't care, I don't want to talk about a game. And we all know the I don't know child, right?
Yes,
you know the I don't know child.
We do.
We do, right?
We know this child
in our field.
Yes.
And so, of course, I came up with this technique as a way to break through the I don't know barrier. And there's different ways that I might play this game with the child, but I'll say we're going to play a game to get to know each other. It's called I don't know, I don't care, I don't want to talk about it. We're going to take turns asking each other questions to get to know each other better. And when you answer the question, you get, and you can either use potato chips, or more recently, I've been using colored beads or different Lego, and they can earn beads or Lego, and then make something out of it at the end. So, you get, 3 beads when you answer the question. But if you say, I don't know, or you don't want to answer the question, then you don't get the beads, you don't get the Lego. Now, most kids, will engage in this. And again, it's a way to get to know the client. And again, you're thinking about phase 1, phase 2 questions. Now, let's say I were to ask the client a question and they say, I don't know, or they don't want to answer it. Well, there's always a way to respond, right? So I might say, well, you know what, that tells me that you know yourself really well. You know what you feel comfortable sharing with me and what you want to keep private for now, and that's okay. Similarly, if the client asks me a question that I don't feel is appropriate for me to answer, I might model for the client setting boundaries, like like you get to decide what you feel comfortable sharing with me, I get to decide what I feel comfortable sharing with you.
Totally, super honoring. Yeah.
So that's another one. And then another technique that's actually in the new book. And this was so the new book is a compilation of 75 activities contributed by child and family therapists from all over the world. It's an incredibly creative collection.
Holding it up right now.
There it is. The book.
There it is.
So Lisa's holding up the book cover for those of you who can't see the screen. It's Assessment and Treatment Activities for Children, Adolescents, and Families, Volume 4. This is the 4th in this series.
Four.
So 75 activities from all over the world, such a creative resource. And one of the activities that I've been using quite a lot in my own practice is called the Dice Drawing Game by Beth Waka. I hope I'm not doing service to her last name. Wakabayashi, I believe is how you pronounce it. And so you first roll the dice, and I won't get into the whole specifics of it, but basically you're asking each other, getting to know you questions, but you have to draw your answer. which is a great one for those kids those no talk kids, the kids who are just really kind of don't want to, verbalize a whole lot. So it's again a way to get to know one another by drawing your answers. So, draw something you like to do, draw, your favorite vacation spot, draw, and then you have to guess, of course. And because you're both doing the same thing, it puts each other on, the same sort of level, right? Which also I think can be really effective. And then another one, which is more active, because, when kids come in and they're feeling really anxious, you want to do something that's more active to channel that energy into a positive outlet. So for those kind of really anxious, more dysregulated kids who have to just kind of get up and move, one is called How About You? So we play standing up and we throw a ball back and forth. So I might start by saying, okay, we're going to play a game to get to know each other. It's called How About You? So I'll start. I like to, and then I'll say something I like to do. I like to go to the beach in the summer. How about you? And then I'll throw the ball to the child. The child will catch it. And then they'll say something they like to do. And then they'll say, how about you? And it'll go back to me. And it goes back and forth a few times. So again, when you're doing a ball activity like that, that in and of itself is facilitating connection, right? You're throwing a ball back and forth. You're maintaining eye contact. You're being playful. Again, referring back to the whole concept of being and doing. If I were to just kind of very unenthusiastically, without a smile on my face, throw the ball to the client, how about you? That's not going to be effective, right? It's how you're using these techniques. That's so very, very important. So those are a few ideas of some of the rapport building techniques I might use.
Yeah. As you're talking, I've always had this idea of, a technique or a protocol is just a technique or a protocol, but someone has to bring it to life.
Yes.
And that's what I'm hearing you say. It's like it's great to have these ideas. It's great to have ideas on what to do, but we have to bring the magic to it, right? We have to bring it to life. And I'm also hearing you say we have to do it in a way that's really attuned to the client. Right?
Yes.
We really have to be watchful, and which helps us know how to say it, how to do it. And I love that you're emphasizing both and not just here's a bunch of things that you can do, because that's not where the safety is, right?
Exactly. It's
safety
so
is in a
important, right?
Yeah.
One of the concepts that I talk a lot about in my trainings is the technique is not the therapy. It's merely a tool to facilitate the therapeutic process. So it's what we do with the technique that, as you just said, that's going to make it a therapeutic intervention. So playing a ball game, throwing a ball back and forth and asking questions, it's not therapeutic. That's not therapy. It's what you do with that makes it therapeutic. And so when you're doing an activity, you always want to think about, well, first of all, why am I using this activity with this child in this session? And how am I going to use this technique to facilitate the therapeutic process? How do I need to introduce it? How am I going to process it? How am I going to respond when a client says ABC, right? Because, if you're asking the client a question, let's say it's, what's one of your favorite vacation spots? And the client says, well, I love going to the beach in Florida. Well, I don't want to then just bombard with another question. I would say, tell me about when you went to Florida and what did you like doing when you were in Florida? So you want to follow up the questions with further exploratory questions to, again, facilitate that dialogue and help the client be able to reveal more about themselves.
I imagine that there is a listener, as we're having this conversation, that is wondering, okay, what about those children that are so anxious that they don't want to come into the playroom? Or they're so anxious that they don't want to come on screen. Like what if the green wig like they're still like, I love it. And right. Like
Yes.
cool. And,
Yes.
how do we help that child that's just so nervous to even
Yes.
just even begin the journey of coming in?
Yeah, such a good question. So let me talk about those two different scenarios, because I think two different responses. So let's first talk about the child who doesn't want to come into the playroom.
Mhm.
So first of all, there's I can't give a totally generic answer because it depends.
Yeah.
But let's say it's a younger child. I might just begin by kind of chit chatting with the parents. Like I might sort of sit down on the floor and just kind of talk with the parents a little bit to give the child some time to kind of suss me out, right? As they see me talking with the parents,
Mhm.
then they begin to relax. So that's sort of one thing I want to say. I have another technique that I sometimes use that I call the sunglass technique. So I'll come out. So instead of the green wig, I might come into the waiting room with. I have a box filled with about 20 different pairs of sunglasses, all kinds of wacky tacky sunglasses that I've collected over the years throughout my travels. So I'll choose a pair that I think might appeal to the client I'm going out to meet. So I have like these Superman ones, for example, go out there. And of course, the client will look at me with the sunglasses. They'll usually giggle, and I'll say, "Oh, hi, hi, Lisa. Hi, my name's Liana." And I'll say, "Oh, I can see you're looking at my sunglasses. Aren't they cool? Well, guess what, Lisa? I have a box filled with about 20 different pairs of sunglasses. So why don't you come with me into my special room and you can rummage through the box of sunglasses and you can put on a pair." And usually, kids will be really excited to trot off with me into the playroom.
Yeah.
Now, if not, I might turn to the parent and say, "Mom, dad, parent, how about you come with Lisa and let's all together let's all look through the sunglasses." And so with the parent, and I don't give any expectation for the child to have to talk. So we'll just all be like putting on different sunglasses. I have a mirror. We can make funny faces into the mirror with the different sunglasses. We can take selfies. So there's no expectation for the child to actually talk, but we're engaging, we're connecting on that playful level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's, sort of one example. I might also bring my fidget box out into the playroom, out into the waiting room, or even the sunglasses, and so bring something from the playroom into the waiting room and can begin the session out there where the child might feel a little bit more relaxed, a little safer. Now, for the kiddo who, for online therapy, for the kids who don't want to come on screen, one strategy that I've used, I call it chat as in chat box.
Yeah.
So rather than having to come on screen, I'll say, "Okay, this is a game that I'll say I play." Another kid around your age, introduced me to this idea, and it worked really well. So I want to try it with you, and let's see if you like this. So I call it chit chat. We're going to ask each other questions. We can't answer by verbally answering. We have to type our answer in the chat box. And so again, we go, we only sort of ask questions through the chat box. And it's a way to, again, for those kids because there are some kids who, for whatever reason, they're just feeling too anxious to come on screen. So that's another way to just, again, playfully use a strategy. And you want to be really kind of careful about the types of questions you ask to those clients and keep it very, very neutral.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine because we don't have the ability to really register how did that land. Because we don't have the verbal or the nonverbal cues if their camera is off, and even the verbal cues if they're talking. And so I think that's a great reminder to, if all you're going off of is chit chat, go slow.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I also think that, some kids respond really well to bibliotherapy. They don't want to talk about themselves, but they'll talk about a character in a story or a character in a TV show. So, there's lots of great books out there, first session books. And I especially love, in terms of more recent books, Lynn Louise Wonder's Miss Piper series of books for younger kids is great. For older clients, you know, I might show, let's, you know, we might use my phone to go online and say, can you show me, like, find a clip, let's say on YouTube, of one of your favorite TV shows, and, you know, or find a clip that has a character that reminds you of your mom, and then, you know, focusing on the TV show, the clip, the character in the TV show. So you're vicariously dealing with the client's issues indirectly by talking about the TV show, the character. So that's another strategy, I think.
So at what point, or is there a point in that first session that you would then move into more of the, okay, we're going to work now on the reason why that you are here? Or do you really treat that first session as a, we're going to establish safety and we're really going to get to know each other?
Well, so let me just say a few more things about some other things that I do before I sort of begin that assessment, because I do actually begin my assessment in the first session. But a few other things that I do in the first session is, I have like a calm box in my office. I used to have like a whole calm corner with a rocking chair when I had a bigger space. The rocking chair was such an amazing space for kids to self-regulate. But I do have like a calm box, and it's very sort of multi-sensory. It's got, it's like slime and, and fidgets and that kind of stuff, but like, feelings chart, and different things, pillow, blanket. And so I'll, for a child who's coming to see me, who, let's say, comes from a, really, an anxious place, or, traumatized child, then I'll introduce them to, the safe box. And I'll give some examples of when kids might want to use it. And then we'll come up with a signal, usually, kids go like this. They put their hand up like a stop sign and say, okay, I want to stop right now and I want to go and use, go look through the safe box and find something that will comfort me. So I might introduce that. For some kids, again, who are highly anxious, we might make slime together in the session. Again, very tactile. We're chit-chatting as we're doing it. And that sensory experience, I think, is very self-regulating, self-soothing. So once we've sort of done that piece and the child is engaged, then I will begin my assessment. And that's a whole other topic, but I do have a whole assessment protocol. That initial assessment activity, is one that is relatively, non-threatening. That will help me begin to really assess what's going on for the child. But I don't sort of move to that until we've done some rapport building and the child, I can see that the child is at ease.
Well, and even as you're introducing these different activities, even though it's not a formal assessment, there is an assessment that's going on as we're getting a sense of how ready, I imagine, how ready is the child, or how willing is the child to connect, or how anxious is the child, or how shut down is the child. So it's sort of cool that you're sort of weaving these sort of mini assessments even at the very beginning. At least that's what I'm hearing is happening also, even though that might not be the primary focus right up front, and the focus being more on connection, but there's still an assessment thing in there, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely, because there's so much going on that you want to be watching, and really kind of listening, being in tune, and most of the techniques that I've just talked about, the rapport building techniques, paper bag puppets, how about you, the I don't know game, the dice drawing game. Once you've sort of asked some of the more getting to know you type questions, then, as I said, you can shift to the phase 2 type questions, right? So let's say you're playing the how about you. First it's, I love to blah, blah, blah. How about you, right? And then you can move into, I feel happy when when it's my birthday and I get a gift. And how about you? And then I feel sad when, it's raining outside and I can't go out for a walk. How about you? So yes, you can these rapport building techniques can also serve as playful, non-threatening assessment strategies as well.
So awesome. This is one of the things that I love so much about you, Liana. You are like the idea person. You have so many different creative ideas and creative interventions. It's what can we talk about your book for a second? Let's talk about your book. it's I have in my hand volume 4, and I've shared with you before, I have the first 3. My favorite is volume 3. I cannot wait to read volume 4. Maybe volume 4 will turn into my new favorite. But I love them so much because it is truly just one creative idea after another. And to me, it just fills the mind up with so many different possibilities and strategies, so that when we're in the room with our clients and we are attuning and we realize we need an intervention right now, or this would be helpful to do this, or I have a client coming in with this, how could I approach this? I mean, the book is just one suggestion after another, and they're sound and they're research informed, and I just really appreciate these books, and I'm really excited that volume 4 has just come out. So I am plugging this, everyone, plugging it. I'm gonna say it again. It's assessment and treatment activities for children, adolescents, and families. So it's one of my favorite things about you, Liana.
Thank you. Well, let me just say that for those of you who are listening to this podcast, today, I'm very, very excited that we're having a virtual book launch on March 10th. March 10th at 4:00 Eastern time. That's New York time. And people are invited from wherever you happen to be in the world to attend the book launch, and we're going to be doing some book giveaways. So it'll be a wonderful way to celebrate the 75 creative authors to this book, to come together globally and connect with our peers, and to possibly win a copy of the book. But I want to just go back for a moment, and if you want to sign up for the book launch, or you're interested in the books, you can go to my website, which is lianalowenstein.com. But I want to just come back to what you said, because, I appreciate your comments about the books and the techniques, but I really want to just reiterate how very important it is it's not just about the technique, right? Yes. These techniques are so creative. They're wonderful. They're not going to be effective unless they're delivered in the appropriate way. So, they're only appropriate if they're integrated into an empathically attuned relationship. So I really want to emphasize that.
Yeah. I thank you for keep coming back to that over and over and over again. Yes, exactly. All right. So we're talking here about these different ways of engaging the child, creating safety in the attuned way, how to welcome them, into the space. What else would you love for us to understand about this initial beginning part of the therapeutic process?
So the other thing that I always do in a first session is I get the child, so the child gets their scrapbook. They also get a gift bag, and I call it the Feel Better bag. And in the initial several sessions, I teach the child some kind of a self-soothing strategy. And then there's some kind of a prop that they take home with them to put into their Feel Better bag they keep by their bed. And the prop serves as the visual reminder, the visual cue for them to practice and use these self-soothing strategies. So for example, cookie breathing, teaching the child how to do proper diaphragmatic breathing. So, smell the cookie. Oh, the cookie's really hot, blow on it, pull it down. So cookie breathing, smell the cookie, blow on it to cool it down. And then I have the child imagine their favorite kind of cookie. And then the child can draw a picture of their favorite kind of cookie. And the picture of their cookie goes into their feel better bag, which they take home, they keep by their bed. I have the caregiver join the session at the end. The child and I together, we teach the caregiver cookie breathing. And then, the parent, the caregiver can coach the child at bedtime each night together with them to do cookie breathing. So it relaxes the child in preparation for sleep. And it gives the child, a really helpful strategy to self-calm. And then, once the child has mastered it, we of course use these strategies in the sessions. So it's kind of, I think it can be really helpful and important to teach the child some self-soothing strategy in the first session, because again, it helps to calm them, ground them in the session, helps them to self-regulate. And it also proves to them in a very experiential way that they know how to comfort themselves, soothe themselves.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So any other pieces here before I'm going to put more plugs in here where people can find you. Any other pieces here, Liana? Again, that just help us open our minds to how to think about this. My mind's already going in so many fun directions just off of this conversation.
So I guess the last thing I want to just say as we talk about, tips and techniques for the initial session. So as I've reiterated, it's not just about the techniques, it's about the process and the use of self and therapeutic presence. But also it's about playfulness. That, children respond to play. Children respond when you smile, that conveys warmth. When you are, asking the child about, making a comment to them about, oh, I see you're wearing a t-shirt with a unicorn. Oh, that is so cool. Do you like unicorns? I love unicorns. So you want to sort of think about something that you can say that, again, sort of provides that immediate connection with the child, that's specific to that child. So, be creative, be playful, convey warmth, and also be creative. Take these techniques that I'm sharing with you today, and I hope it's ignited your creativity, your imagination. Adapt them, and be creative yourself, because I think that kids respond well to these creative ideas that lower the threat level of that initial contact.
Yeah, I'm so glad you just said that at the end, because that's just what I was hearing was we're using these along with our therapeutic presence to help the child feel seen, to help them feel welcome, to help them feel safe, to help them feel like this is a place that I actually can do my work, and this is a safe person that I'm with. And I'm just hearing like these are just such creative ways to address that and to create that experience inside of the child.
Yes.
So awesome. So great. Yes. So Liana, you already mentioned the book launch party coming up. You mentioned your website. You have a lot of free resources and things on your website also. Can you share with our listeners where they can find out more about you, get some free resources, find the books, all that stuff?
Yes. So I've really tried to make my website a hub of free resources. So on my website, which is my name, lianalowenstein.com, there's a free ebook of child and family therapy techniques. And I recently just added a whole bunch of new activities to that ebook of, practitioners have shared their ideas. So it's not my ideas, it's child and family therapy techniques by contributors all over the world. So if you've already downloaded it, check it out again, because there's some new things. There's always a featured technique also on my website. There's an amazing article library, and I know, Lisa, you've contributed to that. Articles written by leading experts in the field on all kinds of cutting edge topics. So there's an article library for mental health professionals, but there's also a separate article library for parents on all kinds of really useful topics. So those are, some examples of some of the free resources that I have on my website. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to buy my books, but for people who are interested, I'm going to give you a discount. So the discount code is PC14. So P as in Peter, C as in cat. So PC14 will get you 20% off all my books. And if you buy 4 books, you get an extra 10% off. So that's a discount for you.
That is so wonderful. Thank you so much for your generosity, Liana, with that. Listeners, take advantage of that. Well, Liana, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, getting us thinking. Thank you for showing up wearing a green wig, making me smile, creating that sense of connection with you right away for me. So I really got to feel firsthand exactly what you have been talking about during this conversation. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing for the play therapy community. I appreciate knowing you. Just thank you so much for being a part of this.
And thank you, Lisa. This podcast is such an amazing resource. I am so touched and honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Okay, listeners, put your creative hats on, get curious about what you can do and how you can be as you are engaging the children for the first time and welcoming them into your play space. And as always, take care of yourselves. You are the most important toy in that playroom. Until next time, everyone.